My name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to another indie book review. This is another one that I've had on my list for a really long time, but because I've already reviewed several other books in the series, I wasn't too pressed to get to it very quickly, but I am happy I read it, and that is Vindicta by Lila Mina. This is, I call it the fourth in the Temper series. However, it's also in some marketing as a Temper sequel, wherein the first three books in the series can be read as a trilogy, and this is something kind of like more. So you can read the first three books in the series and just be done and have a completed story, or you can continue it. The little blurb at the beginning also states that it can be read as a standalone, and I don't know that I agree with that. You can understand the crux of the plot just by reading the story, but the thing is that there's like so much emotional impact that would be lost if you hadn't watched A, the triad form, and B, read the first emotional reveals of what this book deals with. So I am going to be reviewing this book as if you have read the first three, so there may be spoilers from those books. If you are interested in looking into those, I will have the reviews for those books down in the description below. So let's jump into this one. This one sees our Fab Three, as the author calls them, headed to Italy. Lana has some things from her past she needs to put to rest. In the first three books, you discover that she once had a lover named Paolo when she was very young, I believe about 18, and got pregnant, and they had plans to run away together. Her mother and stepfather, who are big villains, found out about it, attacked the both of them, killed Paolo, and forced her to miscarry. So it's this very big emotional thing from her past. And this is finally what she's basically going to be putting to bed all these years later with the help of her spouses and now their kids, which is adorable. I love that the kids are here. This is about I believe, a 3 to 4 year jump from the last one. So Esau is about 4 years old, and they have another child named Nana who is, I believe, supposed to be about 3, and they are in the picture here, and Esau is doing his very best creepy child from a horror movie impression this entire time, talking to people that no one else can see, and when Lana asks, he's going, "Oh, I'm talking to Oni-chan," which is the Japanese honorific for older sister, aka the unborn child that Lana lost. And so it's a little unnerving at times. He's also talking to statues at times. So definitely some unnerving points. And I think future books in the series will likely deal more with that. So that would be intriguing. But in general, it picks up a lot more of the fantastical elements. The trilogy originally started off pretty contemporary, and then like second and third books got way more fantasy based and paranormal based, and this one continues that. We're dealing with literal ancient deities here. I do like the overlap between different cultures, because the first three books spent most of their time in Japan, and this one spends most of his time in Italy, and seeing Naruhito in Italy just totally out of his element was really amusing to me because I don't think he doesn't speak Italian, so he had to like use context clues a lot of the times, but it was so different, and I really enjoyed that. But of course we can't talk about this series without also bringing up the steamy scenes, of which there were many. In the past, I have joked that this series is not your mother's grocery store romance, and it continues to be that. Not only are we working with a triad and some more kinkier things, but this is also an open marriage wherein all three parties have consented that, you know what, you can go have fun with other people just as long as, you know, your emotional ties and your emotional connections and loyalties are still with the triad. So we have a couple different scenes with people outside of the Fab Three, outside of Lana, Naruhito, and Yuki. Yuki is my bisexual goddess, but regardless. So we have a lot more fun with that. And there's one character in particular that the book makes mentions is probably going to be around a little bit more in the future. And like, I wouldn't be mad if the triad became a quad, but that's just me. Anyway, the plot itself is very dark, very fantastical, paranormal, a lot of little instances as they're sightseeing, a lot of Lana low-key being a dumbass and insisting that she's going to do things by herself because that always works for a character in this kind of story, right? I'm just gonna, keep secrets from my spouses and do it all on my own. That clearly will have no problems. Spoiler alert, there are problems. But her best friend Gabriella continues to be there, and I really appreciate that. Nakazawa, her father-in-law, Yuki's father, is also there with some more character development and has become a much nicer character than he was in the original trilogy. But I loved the cast a lot. I loved the creepiness factor. This plot reads a little bit more standard than the last one. And I actually talked with the author about that because one of the things I noted from the previous book was if you looked at the normal story structure of, rising action, climax, falling action, the falling action in that book felt really long. If you looked at it through that lens, and that honestly the best way to look at that book would be from a different kind of story lens. However, this one is a little bit more of the standard structure with there being some falling action, but not in an overly significant amount. I think in the last book it was something like up to 100 pages of the book was falling action, which was necessary for the things they needed to put to bed. But having already put those things to bed, they didn't necessarily need to retread things in this book. I still love the dynamic between the three, but like I mentioned, if that one new friend wants to hang around, I'm not mad. However, I'm not exactly sure I can necessarily see where it's going next. Obviously, there's another book beyond this. So obviously, there is plot beyond this. However, with this story plus the old three, you have Naruhito's background laid to rest, and then this book has Lana's background more or less laid to rest in a very dramatic way. And so next, I'm not quite sure where it would go. I think maybe something more with Isao. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another time jump in the future of at least a year or two. But in general, I still really like this story and this series. It continues to be very inventive in its steamy scenes, very sex positive. I really appreciate that we have such a dramatic, angsty, steamy story with people in middle age and above. I believe Lana is just over 40 in this series, and both of her spouses are older than her. So we have like 40 and 50-year-olds going through all the cool supernatural stuff, which is a lot of fun, and it's not something you usually get to see, especially in romances. Romances tend to be the realm of the young 20-somethings because, everyone's obsessed with having babies in their 20s. But in general, I would highly recommend this book. If you liked the books prior to it, it's more of what you loved before. I'm excited to see new friends join. And honestly, I am here for Isao being the child from a horror movie. That's fine. All in all, I gave this book 5 stars. Highly suggest it if you've already read the series. And if somehow you got this far in the review and you haven't read the series, I highly suggest you go back and again start from book 1. It's the best way to consume the story. But I just like this one a lot. I am still closed to review requests, even though I got like 6 review videos out this month. I'm really proud of myself about that. But my list is still pretty long. I let it sit for a really long time, guys. But I'm hoping one day to get open again. With nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.